Near the southern tip of Mexico's Baja Peninsula, an extraordinary story unfolds. A coral reef burgeoning with life, all but wiped out, decimated by reckless overfishing. But those that destroyed it would ultimately save it. Dazzling schools of fish once again decorate the reef. And the ocean's supreme predators ply these waters once more.
It's fundamentally a pristine environment, and it's really the only place like it left in the Sea of Cortez.
Cabo Polmo, one of the world's most successful marine reserves, offers hope in the struggle to save our threatened seas. Off the eastern cape of Mexico's Baja Peninsula, a pioneering effort is underway. The first ever study of sharks in the Bay of Cabo Polmo. The shallow seas here in the Sea of Cortez teem with life. More than 200 species of fish find refuge on the coral reef. Swirling jacks, powerful bull sharks, dancing mobula rays, and mighty whale sharks. But it wasn't always this way. 30 years ago, the reef lay barren, its waters deserted. For the fishermen of Cabo Polmo, photographs of prized catch were all that remained. Memories, and nothing left to squander. The remote village of Cabo Polmo sits on the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula, 60 miles from the tourist hotbed of Los Cabos. It's perched on the shores of the Sea of Cortez, also known as the Gulf of California. Cabo Polmo is hidden away, surrounded by undeveloped desert and the Sierra de la Giganta mountain range. It can only be accessed by a bone-rattling dirt road, winding through dusty plains that crawl with rattlesnakes. About 100 people live here. Solar energy and generators power the village. There are no mega hotels, no shopping centers, and no marina. There's only one way to launch the boats. The village's isolation has limited its prosperity. But Cabo Polmo has always had one thing going for it: the reef. It's the only hard coral reef off the west coast of North America. And at 20,000 years, it's also the oldest. In the 60s and 70s, Cabo Polmo was a fishing village like many others. Times were bountiful. Local pescadores stretched their nets with tons of fish.
My father used to tell us that when he was a child, he saw in Cabo Polmo so many sharks, like the little pieces of wood that the rivers brings to the ocean when it rains. And he said, I saw that amount of sharks in Cabo Polmo, but you will never see that again because we killed all of them.
By the late 1980s, local fishermen began seeing fewer fish. Those that remained retreated farther out to the ocean.
I can tell you, because I remember I was a child, that they went out very early in the morning, and they came back some days very late, almost dark, with no fish. Tired, thirsty, hungry, angry, because they couldn't find. So the fishing was declining more and more and more and more.
Without any fish, there was no future. The fishing village of Cabo Polmo was close to collapse. Realizing their livelihoods were in jeopardy, the fishermen, whose fathers took to the sea before them, took a drastic step. They gave up fishing. Judith's uncle, Juan Castro, led the campaign to try to save the bay. He and others dedicated themselves to conservation and tourism instead. After several years of effort, in 1995, Cabo Polmo was officially designated a National Marine Park. It's a no-take reserve, meaning fishing is banned within its boundaries. But the question remained, would the fish come back?
The 2 or 3 years after that were the most horrible years, because we didn't know what to do. They only knew how to fish and nothing else. So it was really hard. I remember those years. Oh my God, really, really hard years. And then we were thinking, maybe we make a mistake.
The fishermen of Cabo Polmo had given up their livelihoods. But out on the reef, little had changed. In 1999, researchers conducted a study of fish in the marine park. Even after 4 years of protection, the numbers of fish had barely risen. 10 years later, they repeated the study. This time, the results were astounding. In just 1 decade, Cabo Polmo had increased the total fish biomass by more than 400%. Nowhere in the Gulf of California today are there more fish per square foot than in Cabo Polmo. Schools of Mexican porkfish in their yellow stripes, blunt-head triggerfish, and porcupine fish patrol their own patches of coral. The 1.7 tons of fish per acre recorded on these reefs rank as some of the highest anywhere, making Cabo Polmo one of the world's most successful marine reserves. The park's success has been credited to enforcement by local residents, boat captains, and dive masters. Ricardo Castro runs a local dive shop. He has been diving in Cabo Polmo for more than 20 years and has logged more than 7,000 dives. Like most people here, his forefathers had fished these waters since the turn of the last century, selling their catch to nearby towns. Over the last 5 years, Ricardo has seen a profound change on the reef.
What I think is because we don't fish anymore. I think everything that there was here before, it's coming back, you know. By talking to my dad and my uncles, they used to see the sharks right on the shore, you know, every day. So I think those times are coming back.
Cabo Polmo's 30 square miles of protected waters make it one of the world's largest national marine parks. Environmentalist Philippe Cousteau, grandson of the legendary oceanographer Jacques Cousteau, sees Cabo Polmo as a model for marine protected areas around the world.
In my opinion, Cabo Polmo is one of the best diving sites, not just in the Sea of Cortez, if not the best diving site in the Sea of Cortez. It is better than pretty much almost anything I've ever seen in the Caribbean or anywhere else in this part of the world in Central America. Less than 1% of the world's marine parks are no-take, and so this particular scale at 70 square kilometers is one of the largest no-take reserves. And that means that other than scuba diving and snorkeling, it's really left the way it should be. It's fundamentally a pristine environment, and it's really the only place like it left in the Sea of Cortez.
The reef at Cabo Polmo is one of the healthiest in the entire Pacific Ocean. And with healthy reefs come monster swarms of fish. Here, a giant school of trevally jacks swarms in a constantly swirling, thick, silvery cloud.
It's amazing, you know. When you're diving and when there's a huge school, a giant school of the jacks, if we're that far away from each other, I won't be able to see. We're gonna have a wall of fish. Or if you're under the school, like in the sandy bottom, you're not gonna see any sun going through. It's totally a cloud, dark.
The jacks swim in tightly formed schools to protect themselves from predators. As the size of the school increases, more eyes are able to scan greater areas of the ocean for predators, increasing safety and allowing more time to concentrate on feeding.
One of my favorite memories of diving down here in Cabo Polmo, I splashed in the water and only needed to descend a few feet before I saw what looked like a high school gymnasium size school of trevally jacks. I had never seen anything that large in this part of the world in my entire life. I mean, it took my breath away. As they swim around you, it was just a swirling mass of life, unlike anything I've seen in the Caribbean, unlike anything I've seen elsewhere here in the Sea of Cortez. And of course, it couldn't exist anywhere because fishermen would go through and clean those jacks out like that. It wouldn't take them more than a few days, if not a few weeks, to pretty much wipe everything off this coral reef.
The explosion of life on the protected reef has been astounding. But the ultimate sign of success has been the return of the sharks.
This place had no sharks before in the 90s, before it was a reserve. I came here in the 90s to dive and I never saw a shark. And 10 years after it was declared a reserve, the top predators, the sharks, returned.
The presence of a healthy population of sharks is final proof that the effort to restore this national marine treasure to its former glory has worked. But to ensure the sharks remain in Cabo Polmo, there's work yet to be done. To determine the impact the marine reserve has had on the resident shark population, Marine biologist James Ketchum and his team are conducting an ongoing shark survey in Cabo Polmo.
What we're looking at is the abundance of sharks, how many sharks are here, and what is the diversity of sharks, what species are we finding here in Cabo Polmo. We chose this place because of the sharks. In the 2000s, in 2005, the sharks started to return to Cabo Polmo, and nobody was studying the sharks. So that's also one of the reasons we came here, to do the first ever study of the sharks here. We need to provide enough information to the Mexican government to manage it in the proper way. What is the proper way? Well, not having too many divers, too many people in the water, protecting the sharks efficiently. If you have a place that's not very well managed, the sharks will leave. They will be molested too many times and continuously until they just leave the place and will go somewhere else. So we don't want that to happen in Cabo Polmo.
Some of the sharks carry electronic tags that send individual signals to an acoustic receiver. The receiver records the presence of passing sharks and reveals how long a shark spends at a specific location and how many times it returns to the same spot. Data on these daily movements allow researchers to learn about shark residency and habitat use.
We also want to study how efficient is this reserve, other than just saying it's a good reserve. We just want to know how many sharks are here and how long they stay here, to measure in that way the efficiency of the reserve.
Research takes place underwater and on land. Students positioned 20 to 30 feet above the sea keep lookout for sharks cruising along the shore. Many sharks hunt in shallow waters close to the shoreline.
We've seen 11 species of sharks so far. So we have here a number of sharks, a high diversity of sharks, a high abundance of some of these species. So it's a quite amazing place in terms of shark ecology and biology here.
Bull sharks are the most common species found at Cabo Polmo, although white tips, nurse sharks, and Galapagos sharks also ply these waters. For years, bull sharks were nowhere to be seen. Once the area was fished out, there was nothing here for them to eat. But these pelagic predators have returned in abundance, though curiously, they rarely seem to be hunting.
When we see bull sharks in Cabo Polmo here, for example, they're just resting. It's kind of a refuging, resting station where what they're doing. They're not really feeding when you're looking at. They're not really breeding, but they're probably moving into foraging grounds or foraging at night or in the afternoon when nobody's looking at those sharks.
Bull sharks cruise slowly through the shallow, warm waters. They may appear sluggish, but are capable of quick bursts of speed to catch small, agile prey. With the strongest bite of all shark species, more powerful than a great white, they can attack turtles, dolphins, even other sharks. Bull sharks get their name from their short, blunt snout, used to headbutt and stun prey, and from their supposed pugnacious temperament.
It's a big predator, but actually my feeling is a feeling of I want to see more sharks. It's just beautiful. I love diving with sharks because every time you are in the water with them, you see something new. They're very unpredictable animals. Most of them are top predators. So that's their nature, to be unpredictable. And that makes them more incredible to see how they move around. That's also their perfect movements in the water. They're a perfect machine in that sense. Amazing animals.
I've never felt threatened by sharks in my entire life, particularly bull sharks. It's about respect. The dive guides down here in Cabo Polmo are world class, and it is one of my favorite things to do in the world. I'd like to remind people that people are more likely to die from a coconut than be attacked by sharks. More people die from goldfish-related accidents in the United States every year than from shark attacks. So if you're afraid of sharks or being attacked by a shark, don't ever leave your house, because driving in your car, walking across the street, all those things are far more dangerous. If you see a bull shark here in Cabo Pulmo, consider yourself lucky, because seeing sharks is just a rare treat in life. And forget all the hype and the fear that the media dumps onto these majestic animals, and just appreciate how beautiful they are.
Recently, white-tip reef sharks tagged by Ketchum in the Socorro Islands, more than 300 miles away, have turned up in Cabo Pulmo. White-tip reef sharks are not typically long-distance travelers. It's believed these Socorro white-tips followed warm currents powered by El Niño.
Well, El Niño has two sides. It's two sides of the coin. One side, yeah, brings bad news because the water's too warm. The thermocline drops down. That means that all the nutrients are trapped deep, so there's no replenishment of nutrients in the surface waters, so there's no food, basically. So that's bad news for many species, for top predators and a number of species. But on the other side of the coin is good news, because you have migrations of species that otherwise they can't make it to places where they don't live. Like an example is the white-tip reef. The white-tip reef is pretty much restricted to Socorro Islands, to that archipelago or west, and now it's able to inhabit other places like the Gulf of California, southern Gulf of California. So it's good news in some sense.
One species that is known for its migratory behavior is the whale shark. The largest fish in the sea, it is the largest fish that has ever lived on our planet. The length of a school bus, a 40-foot whale shark can weigh more than 20 tons, 4 times the size of the great white shark. Its mouth is wide enough to allow 4 divers to swim in at once. By tagging whale sharks, scientists are able to learn about their migration habits. One whale shark was tracked from the Sea of Cortez to a spot more than 8,000 miles across the Pacific Ocean. The largest fish in the world is also one of the most mysterious. Tagged whale sharks will disappear for weeks, descending more than a mile into the chilly depths of the oceans. Little is known about their mating and birthing habits, but studies here are shedding new light. The southern Sea of Cortez is thought to be a pupping area for whale sharks that migrate to breed.
A few years back, we saw a large female just not too far from here. It's called Gorda Banks, that had her cloaca open. It just had popped, and her sides of the belly were fluffy. So we have very good, very strong evidence that these sharks are popping here in the southern Sea of Cortez.
Here, an adult and 2 juveniles feed near the surface. It's believed that whale sharks pup at great depths, then remain there for months. Deep water offers protection from predators, such as blue marlin and orcas, that prey on young whale sharks. Mother and pup stay in the deep until the pup is at least 6 feet long. They then come to the surface, to a secondary nursery, where juveniles gather.
Here in the Bay of La Paz, we have a secondary nursery of high importance. So we see 2-3 meter whale sharks there typically every year. So we know that they're probably popping here. They stay in the deeper part of the Sea of Cortez, Gulf of California, and then they reach a certain size and they come to surface and they stay inshore for protection and for feeding on plankton.
The largest fish in the sea feeds on some of the smallest. Plankton is the most abundant food in the sea, and whale sharks are one of 3 known shark species that filter feed on these microscopic plants and animals. The sharks filter plankton through pads that cover the entrance of the throat. Giant gulps at the surface draw water into the mouth, suctioning in the plankton. A single shark can filter more than 160,000 gallons of water per hour. That's enough water to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool in just 4 hours.
It's incredible. When you see a really large whale shark, over 10 meters in length, it's not only the length, it's also the girth. It's like a humongous submarine. So when we were studying the whale sharks in the Bay of La Paz, the first thing you have to do is look at the sex. What's the gender, what's the sex of the shark? For juveniles, it's easy. It's just drop down a little bit and you can look for the claspers. Male sharks have 2 organs that are called claspers. When you see a shark over 10 meters in length, you have to really dive down. You're diving down several meters down to go under the shark, look if it has claspers or not. So they're humongous animals.
They'll come right towards you and just kind of swim right past you, and like they don't have a care in the world. And their mouth is 6 feet wide, this huge gaping black hole, and you think, oh my goodness, I'm gonna get sucked in. You don't. They know you're there. They don't want to get you in there because they can't eat you anyway, so it's not a good thing. So they're really gentle giants. But to see something the size of a small submarine coming towards you is certainly a humbling experience and might make you catch your breath for a moment, but is really one of those sights in the ocean, those experiences in the ocean that I've never forgotten, that no one forgets when they see it, and is just awe-inspiring.
As the sun sets over the Sea of Cortez, another filter feeder swoops through the water in the dark of night. Nowhere near the size of the whale shark, but in such large numbers that it's equally remarkable, the Mobula ray. As each ray glides through the water, 2 blade-like fins channel water into the ray's wide-open mouth, where gills sift out microscopic plankton and krill. Powerful wing beats constantly propel the rays through the water, passing oxygen-rich water over the gills for respiration. The non-stop action is a bit too much for this pufferfish, which makes a hasty retreat. Mobula aggregations, particularly common at breeding times, can number in the hundreds. But these large shoals are vulnerable to commercial fishing. Mobulas are highly valued in international trade, used for Chinese medicine, and as an ingredient of shark fin soup. A single haul of a fishing net through one of these shoals can draw in many rays, dramatically decreasing the population. Today, the protected waters of Cabo Polmo are similar to those of a coral reef that has never been fished. The coral reef functions as a nursery for a vast number of animals that live in the Sea of Cortez, and the benefits of its protection extend well beyond the confines of the reef. Away from the marine park, fishing has improved. Fishermen outside the park's boundaries take advantage of this spillover effect. To prevent fishing from once again decimating the reef, Marine Park staff Danielle Gatica and Alicia Chavez patrol Cabo Pulmo's protected waters. They're on the lookout for poachers with weighted gill nets that haul in anything that swims by, including sharks and rays. The illegal fishing boats often try to evade capture.
Sometimes they're running. When they look the boat, they're gone. Sometimes they wait. You know, when we arrive of the boat, sometimes they are like angry, you know, because they want to fishing in any place.
Park rangers arrest and fine the fishermen and confiscate their illegal fishing boats. But it's not just poachers that concern the Cabo Pulmo Marine Patrol. Scuba diving boats can also pose a problem.
Buenos días, Capitán. That's a diver's boat. It's a dive boat right there. So we check in there now. Buenos días.
Buenos días. Your bracelet.
Park staff check that the dive boat has the proper park permits and that divers have purchased a park wristband. They tightly control the number of divers at Cabo Pulmo and instruct divers never to touch the fragile corals on the reef.
They get the permits, they get the bracelet, they get everything, so that boat is okay to dive. Hay otra panga, ¿ya viste? Allá por las tinaquitas.
In the distance, the Marine Patrol spots what look like fishermen near the shore. They head closer to inspect.
We're going and check what happened right there. Maybe we see some people swimming, maybe fishing or sport fishing, spear fishing, something like that. In this area, they cannot fish, you know, so we're going to happen right there.
Torre para móvula, ¿me copias?
Y Torre le copio.
James workers.
James
They're
students.
looking the sharks on this area.
The fishermen turn out to be shark researchers, working with marine biologist James Ketchum.
These researchers counting the sharks. That's their job here in Cabo Pulmo.
"70 feet below the surface of the Sea of Cortez lies a ghostly relic, claimed by the power of the sea. The wreck of the Fong Ming, a Chinese fishing vessel seized by authorities for attempting to smuggle nearly 100 migrant workers into the United States. In 1999, the confiscated 180-foot-long vessel was intentionally sunk to create an artificial reef, the first of its kind in Latin America. Today, the Fong Ming is a haven for marine life. Reef cornet fish, a green moray eel, an olive ridley turtle. Of all of the sea turtles, olive ridleys are the smallest, weighing on average about 75 pounds. They are also the most abundant, though their survival is threatened. In the water, fishing nets take their toll. On land, nesting females are slaughtered for their meat and skin. Most hatchlings die on the beach before reaching the ocean, preyed on by birds, crabs, and even dogs. For every 1,000 eggs laid, just one hatchling will survive to breeding age. On the beaches lining the Sea of Cortez, there are a small number of nesting sites. A disturbance to even one nest beach can have a dramatic effect on the turtle population. At Cabo Polmo, Danielle and Alicia work to ensure that sea turtles have a safe place to nest, hatch, and eventually make their way to the sea. These young conservationists search the beach for vulnerable nests, then move them to a protected corral. They bury the eggs for 6 weeks under heavy sand nearly 2 feet deep. The progress of each protected nest is monitored to ensure that the greatest number of hatchlings survive. When the eggs hatch, babies crawl to the surface, orient to the ocean, and scramble instinctively to the sea. It's a dangerous journey, fraught with predators. But marine park staff don't take the hatchlings directly to the sea. Hatchlings need to experience the beach and even taste the sand as they scurry down the beach to the surf. It's believed this helps create a chemical memory of their birthplace, so they may return to the same spot in 12 to 15 years to lay their own eggs. It takes more than an hour for each tiny hatchling to push its way over the thick, wet sand. The water doesn't always offer the sanctuary it seeks. But this one gets a helping hand. Each wave knocks it back. But the turtle is determined, and after about a dozen unsuccessful attempts, a wave carries it out to sea on the start of an epic journey. North of Cabo Polmo, at Los Islotes, overzealous fishing has had a dramatic impact on large colonies of Baja California sea lions. Diminished local fish stocks have driven these sea lions into deeper waters to hunt for fish beyond the reach of commercial fishermen. California sea lions are opportunistic eaters, feeding on fish, squid, and small sharks. They typically hunt at the surface down to about 80 feet. But they can dive as deep as 1,200 feet and hold their breath for up to 20 minutes. An amazing feat, enabled by a physiology that's evolved over millions of years. When starting a dive, sea lions slow their heart rate, stop their breathing, and divert blood flow from the extremities to the brain, heart, and muscles. They are natural-born swimmers. Large front flippers power their streamlined bodies through the water at speeds up to 25 miles an hour. Thick layers of blubber and a coat of coarse hair provide insulation from chilly marine waters. The sea lion's whiskers contain nerve fibers that aid in navigation through ocean waters and detect vibrations from prey in the water. Hunting sessions can last as long as 30 hours. This young female has hit upon a school of jacks. The school is designed to confuse predators, but she displays a remarkable hunting technique. From a school of hundreds of jacks, the sea lion focuses on just one. She tears after the fish, even as the jack tries to hide within the school. The sea lion continues her relentless pursuit until the fish is too tired to outswim the hunter. In the water, sea lions are flexible and agile. On land, powerful front flippers and a rotating hip bone allow them to drag their burly bodies over the rocks. They gather in protected areas near the shore and spend hours lolling in the sun. On land, they have no predators. In the sea, great white sharks and orcas pose the greatest threat. When not hunting, young sea lions have one thing on their minds: play. Juveniles chase each other, wrestle, and practice territorial battles for hours on end. Despite a diminished food supply, due in part to overfishing, the sea lion population at Los Islotes has increased by 20% since 1991. These curious animals have learned to adapt and thrive. Back in Cabo Polmo, diving on the reef is like traveling back in time when all of the Sea of Cortez teemed with life. Today, the waters of Cabo Polmo contain sights rarely seen around the world.
It's no secret that the oceans are suffering. When you talk about not just overfishing, but you add ocean acidification, climate change, all these different issues, the oceans, the life support system of this planet, are getting hammered. However, there are some things that we can do on a local level to help protect the oceans and to make them as resilient as possible in the face of some of these larger global problems. And one of the best things that we can do to protect our oceans is to create marine reserves. In particular, no-take marine reserves like here at Cabo Polmo. They've been proven to work. It's essentially saying that, we can provide areas in the ocean where human beings aren't pulling stuff out and dumping stuff in, and give it a break.
Here you have a formula that worked. You have a beautiful location, you have a beautiful habitat of many different species, but if you don't protect that, that will be gone because we will get fished out. So what happens at Cabo Polmo, you have also a community of local people have been here for decades, for almost 100 years. So they learned to protect this place. So was like an experiment, and it worked. And we're hoping to have other Cabo Pulmos in other parts of the Gulf of California. Because if you repeat this formula, we know it's going to work.
Fishermen up and down this coast will tell you they don't want their kids to become fishermen because they see the decline in the health of the fisheries along here and that it's a diminishing return on investment. And they want their children to go and do something else. Whereas what they've built here in Cabo Pulmo is truly an investment in the future and is value that continues to grow for the next generation.
Cabo Pulmo, it's my life. It's been my dad's, my mom's, and my grandpa's life, you know? And I wish it's gonna be my kids' life, you know? I'm very proud of Cabo Pulmo, the town itself, but also what we have on the ocean, you know? As you can see, it's a beautiful place. Unfortunately, we don't have that many places in the world like Cabo Pulmo. We have to start taking care of those places, you know? So our kids, the world kids, can enjoy these kind of places.
Inspired by the success of Cabo Pulmo, Mexico has plans to extend its marine sanctuaries to include up to 10% of its seas. One of the world's most successful marine reserves is now a model for other marine protected areas around the world, and one of the many wonders of the Great Blue Wild.